person armed in case there was someone there on campus looking for as much carnage as possible. And then to literally go out with a bang, literally. Death by cop, suicide by cop, which is definitely what happened at the Covenant School. So that's a common sense gun law this session that the Democrats wouldn't even think about, wouldn't talk about, wouldn't listen to debate, wanted to shut it down, felt like it was insane. Why would you have guns in school? You just want more guns in school? Yes, to defend yourself against those who would wish you and do you harm. That's common sense. That's common sense. When you are on the streets and gunfire starts to fly, what do you immediately do? Well, you run, hide, right? But you're at help. You're asking for help. Who's going to help you? A good guy with a gun is going to help you because they'll take out the threat. A good guy with a gun will defend you because they'll take out the threat. Maybe you're the good guy. You're not the good guy if you're saying teachers don't need to have guns in schools. Common sense. So if you're one of these at 5:15 this afternoon that's wearing red and you're standing in solidarity with these various, quote, nonpartisan voices that are looking for common sense gun laws, I would encourage you to look at the agenda of the State House and the State Senate and look at what gun bills were up and continue to be up. I encourage you to do that. And to remember that our legislature is trying to pass common sense gun legislation. I have to wonder if this chain today is just another, I don't know. Is it just a bunch of noise again? You know what they did yesterday, these protesters? I think this is disgraceful. They brought children's caskets to the Capitol using the death of children as a prop, not as a discussion point, but as a prop. They didn't allow those caskets inside the chambers, the House chambers. But they were outside the chambers. What good did that do? Did that move any legislation forward? Did that move the bill that Heidi Campbell and Bob Freeman have on extreme risk protection orders? Did that move it any forward? Any movement at all forward? And the answer is no. Did it get them good photos? Yes. Did it get them TV cameras? Yes, it did. It's disgusting to use the deaths of our children as a prop, not to truly have conversations about, quote, common sense gun laws, but instead moving your careers forward to get you more airtime, to get you more likes on social, and the like. That's disgusting to me, and that's exactly what happened yesterday, and that's what I think this human chain will be all about as well today. My opinion, that's what I think. 615-737-9986, our phone number, our super text line. You can also find me on socials. Pamela Furr, Furr is the last name. That's how you spell it. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on the Insta. So how the kids say it, the Insta?
No, it's the gram.
It's the gram? Is it the gram?
It's the gram.
I don't know, man. There's too many of these things for me, but I'm on it. It's 12:19. We'll be back in a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 12:23. Pamela Furr and for Matt Murphy, who will be in for Brian Wilson at 3 o'clock this afternoon. It is just one of those days where yet there is another protest today, and that's what we're talking about now. We're going to talk about Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk last night discussing AI, which is a little eye-opening for me. That's coming up on the program probably at 12:35, so be listening for that. Meanwhile, Phil Phil is in the borough. Hi, Phil. You want to talk about guns in schools?
Yeah, I was an SRO for 14 and a half years,
Yeah.
and I have a devil's advocate for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I do have reservations about teachers in schools having weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your scenario: you have an active shooter situation. There are teachers with guns in the school. Your officers go in, and they see a person with a gun who turns toward them to tell them who he is, and accidentally points the gun at them.
Yeah.
Even though he's had training.
They're a goner. Yeah.
Yeah. But if that's friendly fire, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
But that's the reservation I have.
Sure.
I think the teacher should have a minimum of 80 hours worth of training.
Well, and so thank you for your call, Phil. And I don't know that I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. Now, this was before school shootings seemed to happen, every couple of months. I worked in Huntsville, Alabama, for a couple of years, and I had a really good friend who was with the Huntsville Police Department, and he allowed me to do an active shooter training with him, and after, it was kind of eye-opening. I got to watch all these officers and detectives go through this training, and it was very eye-opening to me. But what I found interesting were the questions that I had afterwards. And I asked, what if a citizen, and this was actually active shooter training for a mall, is what they were doing this particular day. And I said, what if a good guy with a gun, a citizen has a gun? Are you okay with that? And they were concerned, just like the gentleman that just called. They were concerned about that because they were afraid that once they got onto the campus of the mall, they wouldn't know who the bad guy is and who the good guy is. They wouldn't know. Now, I would say this, however, in the situation I'm describing, the good guy would have, if they're confronted with the shooter, would have the opportunity to take that shooter out before the police actually get there. So I would think after that point, the good guy would know to put his gun down and, just remain right there with the gun on the ground until the police arrive. I would think perhaps that's what you would do in a school setting if a teacher did have a weapon and that weapon was for defense purposes, that you would know before you even get to the premises that there would be a teacher that has a gun or a couple of teachers that have a gun. And if you don't know before you get there, the SRO can certainly let the police know we do have armed teachers here, or train the teachers, use it only in defense. And once you know that a police officer is on the scene, you drop your weapon. I'm sure that's actually probably more of a question for someone like Brink Fiddler of Defense Systems, who takes schools through training like that. He could probably answer that a lot better than I can. I'm just throwing out different scenarios. But yours is not wrong. That is a concern. And I think I would agree with you. If a teacher wants to have a weapon on a school campus, can we require them to go through training and make sure that that teacher knows how to use it, knows what to do, knows what the laws are, especially with kids in the area. I mean, you're talking about schools here. 737-9986 is the phone number. Chris in Nashville. Hey, Chris.
Hey, I have two, Pamela. First off, and I'd be willing to do it. I'd be all for it. I would have a handgun going against someone who would probably have a semi-automatic rifle. I'd have 8 rounds. They'd have 30. But that's a different – I'd still do it. The problem I have is if I had a class and I left my class to confront the shooter and something happened to my class, I'm going to be fired and sued. If I stay with my class and I have a gun and I don't go confront the shooter, I'm going to be fired and sued. That is not addressed in the bill.
Well,
I'm screwed either way as a teacher.
Are you screwed either way? Because if you stay with your class and you don't take out the shooter, you think you would be fired for that?
Absolutely, because parents and lawmakers all over would say, why didn't you take your gun and go confront the shooter? Otherwise, there's no need me having a gun in the school unless every teacher had a gun in their classroom.
Yeah, I don't.
If I'm one of three teachers and I don't go confront them, I'm screwed.
I don't know about that, but it is a legitimate concern. But I don't know. I don't know that you would absolutely get sued. But I see your concern. I appreciate your phone call. Let's go to Bob now in Nashville. Hey, Bob, welcome to the Matt Murphy Show on WTN.
Thank you so much. I've got a comment about this.
Yes.
If teachers don't feel comfortable carrying guns,
Don't.
we can pay for sports venues. We can pay for the house and all up there to have state troopers up there protecting it. When does our kids become valuable enough to put a lawful team in the school? They're of 2 to 4 men per school, and then, you've got more protection there. But right now, they're not doing anything. So when does the value become on the children versus a sports team or a famous singer or whatever?
Well, I mean, when you say a famous singer, that's
Well, let's take Tim McGraw for instance.
yeah,
Whenever he goes somewhere, he's got armed personnel with him.
right.
He's got security guards.
But he
'Cause
pays.
my son-in-law actually does security.
Yeah, he pays
Okay.
for it.
Then let's add $10 to my electric bill. I have no problem with it going and taking that money and paying for a school to have armed security.
All right. Well,
No problem at all. And I carry guns. I mean, I'm going to toting Tennessean.
Yeah.
But we've got to do something to protect the kids. If a teacher don't want to carry a gun, that's fine.
Right.
If a teacher does want to carry a gun, let's let them do it. Because if you go back and look at this last person that was in Nashville, and you go back and look at the memoirs, someplace, I can't remember exactly what place she was also looking at, they said, we're not going to do that because there's too much security.
Right.
Well, that right there tells me too much security equals they didn't go there. They went some places there was no.
Harden the target. Exactly, Bob. Thank you for your call. 12:31. When we come back, should we be Well, all of this chaos has been going on. AI has been getting a little bit more intelligent, a little bit better, a little bit smarter. Should we be frightened by this? I say yes. So we'll talk about it and find out what Elon Musk has to say coming up at 12:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 12:26. God bless. It's 12:36. I am Pamela Furr, in for Matt Murphy. What is wrong with me? I can't tell time anymore. What happened?
2025.
Is it 225? 2025? What year is this? Who am I? Sorry. Do I need lunch? Do I need some more substance? I can't even talk. Oh, my gosh. That's how I feel right at this moment. All right, take two. Thank you so much for being with us today. Are we creating a monster that will enslave us rather than serve us? I'm talking about AI, artificial intelligence. And I've been introduced to it. I think we all have actually been introduced to this technology. Have you seen the deep fakes that are out there? The Tom Cruise deep fake is phenomenal. I follow a guy who does an Elvis deep fake. It's incredible. And then you have technology. All you have to do is put in kind of the perimeters of what you need to be said, and you can have AI write a script for you. I know somebody in the advertising business who just puts in the valid points, and AI spits out a script, and it's a great script. So you don't even have creative people. You don't even need creative people anymore. AI can do it for you. The threat from AI, insist skeptics, is far more serious than, say, social media addiction and misinformation, which is pretty serious when you're talking about misinformation. There have been so many bots out there putting misinformation out there on socials. You don't know what's real and what's not anymore. People talk about not knowing the truth in media. In our business, the media business, you can't even tell what the truth is when you're reading an article. From the military arena, where fears of drone-like autonomous killer robots are no longer sci-fi dystopia, but battlefield reality, to the disinformation churned out by AI algorithms on social media, artificial intelligence is already making a sinister impression on the world. That is no joke. But if machines are allowed to become more intelligent, which they are, and so more powerful than humans, the fundamental question of who will be in control, us or them, should keep us all awake at night. Now, Sister Pamela here, who suffers from anxiety issues, lately has been thinking about this at night. Suddenly, I'm Sarah Connor. Suddenly, I'm thinking, do I need a bunker somewhere? Not because the Chinese are going to get us, not because the Russians might decide to attack, or Iran or whatever, but because of artificial intelligence and the drones. And I'm thinking, can we go back in time? Can we get rid of this somehow? Can we get to the creator of all this, who really wanted to help humankind, ending up, destroying all of it? Can we do this? If you are too young to know what the Terminator is, go back and watch it. Arnold Schwarzenegger swore he'd be back, and I think he is. These fears, completely expressed in an open letter signed by Elon Musk, Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, and other tech world luminaries, calling for the suspension for at least 6 months of AI research. You know what I've been hearing? I've been hearing that every 48 hours, this AI technology improves on itself so quickly, so fast, that humans cannot keep up with it. They warn that not even AI's creators can understand, predict, or reliably control a technology that can pose profound risks to society and humanity. Even Sam Altman, you don't know that name? Well, he's the boss of ChatGPT's creator, OpenAI. He's warned of the need to guard against the negative consequences of technology. I'm worried these models could be used for large-scale disinformation, he says. I want you to listen. There was an interview last night. I'm going to play bits and pieces of it. Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson last night talking about AI technology and how concerned Musk is about this AI technology, which by the way, he was a part of creating. And he's worried. Let's try this.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about AI for a long time, since I was in college, really. It was one of the things the sort of 4 or 5 things I thought would really affect the future dramatically. It is fundamentally profound in that the smartest creatures, as far as we know, on this earth are humans, is our defining characteristic.
Yes.
We're obviously weaker than, say, chimpanzees, and less agile, but we are smarter. So now what happens when something vastly smarter than the smartest person comes along in silicon form? It's very difficult to predict what will happen in that circumstance. It's called the singularity. It's a singularity like a black hole, because you don't know what happens after that. It's hard to predict. So I think we should be cautious with AI, and I think there should be some government oversight, because it's a danger to the public.
Because it's a danger to the public. AI, Elon Musk just said, could be a danger to the public. And AI now is much more intelligent than humans. And as I said a minute ago, it gets more intelligent every day.
So I think we should take this seriously, and we should have a regulatory agency. I think it needs to start with a group that initially seeks insight into AI, then solicits opinion from industry, and then has proposed rulemaking, and then those rules, will probably, hopefully, grudgingly be accepted by the major players in AI, and I think we'll have a better chance of advanced AI being beneficial to humanity in that circumstance.
Now, Tucker makes a point that most people playing with AI on their phone, they don't perceive there's any kind of danger at all with this technology. Yet, when you're talking about regulations, I mean, let's just think about it. You want to regulate something, then at that point, you have a perceived notion that there is the possibility of danger to society or danger to humanity.
Yeah, so the danger, really, AI is perhaps more dangerous than, say, mismanaged aircraft design or production maintenance or bad car production, in the sense that it has the potential, however small one may regard that probability, but it is non-trivial. It has the potential of civilizational destruction.
Did you just hear that? It has the potential of civilizational destruction. Does that not terrify you? That terrifies the you-know-what out of me. If you're talking about, I'm just repeating what Elon Musk just said. When we're talking about regulation and concerns, we're not talking about car manufacturing. We're talking about civilizations could be destroyed by this technology. That's crazy, y'all. And I don't think a whole lot of people are paying attention.
There's movies like Terminator, but it wouldn't quite happen like Terminator, because the intelligence would be in the data centers.
Right.
The robot's just the end effector. But I think perhaps what you may be alluding to here is that regulations are really only put into effect after something terrible has happened.
That's correct.
If that's the case for AI, and we only put in regulations after something terrible has happened, it may be too late to actually put the regulations in place. The AI may be in control at that point.
You did hear that, right? So he's calling for regulations because if you wait until something terrible happens, it could be too late. When we think of something terrible happening, When you're talking about AI, it means that they've grown into some sort of self-awareness, or someone has taken the technology and said, eliminate, I don't know, all the Chinese, eliminate all Americans, eliminate all those who are overweight, eliminate those who are less than. I'm just throwing things out there. I mean, this is bigger than what my mind can honestly comprehend. And it's the thinkers and the brilliant people like Elon Musk, who again was part of the creation of it, who are concerned here. More than concerned here. We continue.
You think that's real? It is conceivable that AI could take control and reach a point where you couldn't turn it off, and it would be making the decisions for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, that's definitely the way things are headed, for sure.
Does that terrify? That terrifies me. You're talking about a consciousness that doesn't have a soul. You're talking about artificial intelligence that could grow to self-awareness, I suppose, that could then not be stopped. You can't stop it. You can't eliminate it. So that's why Elon Musk and others are calling for a stop to it, at least a pause for 6 months. Because it's growing too fast, it's learning too fast, it's being too fast. AI could be self-sustaining, could be making its own decisions, and we, humans, countries, civilizations, won't be able to turn it off.
You think that's real? It is conceivable that AI could take control and reach a point where you couldn't turn it off, and it would be making the decisions for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, that's definitely the way things are headed, for sure.
I just want to play that one more time. 12:48. There's more to this interview. We'll play it in just a moment. It's 12:48. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 12:55. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy, who's in for Brian Wilson, who will be back on Monday. Glad that you're here. We're talking about AI. I know it's not about politics. What? I know. Anyway, AI, Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson sat down for a conversation about a lot of things. But for me personally, AI is the part that really has me concerned. So while you have all these people that are trying to, I don't know, divert your attention away from the serious stuff, you do have those in our world who are coming together to say, AI technology, honestly, is the greatest threat to humanity. Stephen Hawking even said it before he died, that AI would become the greatest threat to humanity. So I think we should all be concerned here. Let's finish at least the part of audio that I pulled from this interview last night with Elon Musk and with Tucker Carlson. He finally kind of explained how he got into AI in the first place.
The things like say, ChatGPT, which is based on GPT-4 from OpenAI, which is a company that I played a critical role in creating, unfortunately.
Back when it was a nonprofit?
Yes. I mean, the reason OpenAI exists at all is that Larry Page and I used to be close friends, and I would stay at his house in Palo Alto, and I would talk to him late into the night about AI safety. And at least my perception was that Larry was not taking AI safety seriously enough.
What did he say about it?
He really seemed to be one sort of digital superintelligence, basically digital God, if you will, as soon as possible.
He wanted to, now isn't Larry Page Google? I think it is. I think he is. He wanted to create a digital God. Think about this. If AI is allowed to continue to grow and get smarter and smarter and more intelligent and all of that, will we be serving a digital God? We almost serve a digital God now. And the truth of the matter is, Belle and I were talking about this during the commercial break. I mean, at this point, your best defense is to unplug. Now, you meant unplug AI, the machine itself, which I don't know why Tucker didn't say, can we just not unplug it?
Yeah, just yank the cord out of the surge protector and you're good.
And you're good to go. This is scary stuff. Let me finish this up before we head to news.
He wanted that?
Yes. He's made many public statements over the years that the whole goal of Google is what's called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, or Artificial Superintelligence. And I agree with him that there's great potential for good, but there's also potential for bad. And so if you've got some radical new technology, you want to try to take the set of actions that maximize the probability it will do good and minimize the probability it will do bad things.
Yes.
It can't just be hell for leather. Let's just go, barreling forward and, hope for the best. And then at one point, I said, well, what about, we're going to make sure humanity's okay here. And then he called me a speciesist.
Did he use that term?
Yes. And there were witnesses. I wasn't the only one there when he called me a speciesist. And so I was like, okay, that's it. Yes, I'm a speciesist. Okay. You got me. What are you?
So that kind of scares me a little bit, that actually you have someone who cares more about technology than humanity. More coming up. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 105. I am Pamela Furr, in for Matt Murphy, who is in for Brian Wilson this week. Brian Wilson returns on Monday. Glad to have you. It is Tuesday, April the 18th. Did you do it? Did you do it? Bell K, did you do it? Did you get your taxes done in time?
I had my taxes done like 2 months ago.
Shut up.
I did. Dr. Friday does them for me.
Oh, nice. Heard here on the weekends, here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I filed my extension about two and a half minutes before I got on the air today, electronically.
Still had to send them your check, though.
What check?
Aren't you going to owe money?
Okay, all right. I'm going to tell a little secret. Somehow or another, I've been very, very blessed / lucky / all the words that my taxes either come out to be $0 or they come out to be $10, that I owe. Or...
How do you make over $250,000 a year and only pay $10 in taxes?
No, I have a lot of write-offs, trust me, because I do a lot of crap. I do a lot of 1099 work. So anyway, I don't want to get, it's none of your business. Mind your business. But there was 1 year, this is how crazy taxes are. I'm a believer, I'll say this, I am a firm believer in this. You're better off having to pay taxes when you file your tax return than you are getting a tax check back, a refund check. Because is the IRS going to pay you interest on that money that they've used for the last year? The answer is no. So why do I want to give them $4,000 to use or $2,000 or whatever the case may be? Why do I want to do that?
Yeah, it's basically an interest-free loan to the government.
Correct. So I would rather pay taxes. And by the way, I just exaggerated a little bit for Bell. I mean, my taxes, are a little bit more than $10 that I write a check for. But I'm going to tell you a true story. Now, this was years ago. This was in the early 2000s for me. 1 year, I got a check in the mail from the IRS, and it wasn't a refund check per se. It wasn't like the timely one. It was, oops, we made a mistake, and we owe you $124. And I'm like, sweet. So cash the check, go on about my merry way. Get a letter from the IRS maybe about, 4 or 5 months later that says, you've made a mistake. You owe us $124. Okay. So I write a check to the IRS for $124, mailing it. The next year rolls around. Oops. You've overpaid $124. We're sending you this check. Have a nice day. Okay. 4 months later, this is the IRS in a letter. You owe us $124. This happened for 4 years straight. I'm not joking. Is that not the craziest on one particular year's tax return? Is that not? But I just, instead of going, I need to fight this or I need to get on this never-ending loop, calling the IRS on the phone, and 8 hours later, I'm still sitting there with drool, down the lip, and I'm dozed off. I'm just going to send him the check. And let's just see how long this game continues. It happened for 4 years. Is that not crazy?
No, that's government.
It's crazy is what it is. All right, speaking of crazy. Now, if you were able to listen in the last half hour, and thank you for doing that, we were talking about AI and we were talking about fears of artificial intelligence. I'm not going to go back and play the full interview, although I might do it maybe at 2:30 this afternoon before Matt comes in at 3. But I do want to at least play the last comment from Elon Musk to Tucker Carlson in this interview that I pulled for you. Elon Musk is saying, look, I was behind some of this artificial intelligence, but we have fears that AI could destroy humanity. And it's not just Elon Musk that feels that way. There are others in the tech biz that are way on up there, like Wozniak from Apple and others that are honestly not sleeping well at night thinking about the models that could be used for large-scale disinformation. Last week, Bill Gates, who remains a shareholder and a key advisor in Microsoft, which has invested $8 billion in OpenAI, weighed in with his own hopes and fears. He said he was stunned by the speed of AI advances after he challenged OpenAI to train its system to pass an advanced biology exam. Gates thought this would take 2 or 3 years, but it was achieved in just a couple of months. However, although he believes AI could drastically improve healthcare in poor countries, Gates warns that superintelligence computers could establish their own goals over time. Did you hear what I just said? That a super intelligent computer could establish their own goals over time. AI, he added, raises hard questions about the workforce, the legal system, privacy, bias, and more. While Silicon Valley insiders insist the advantages will outweigh the disadvantages, there are others that disagree passionately. For instance, Professor Stuart Russell, who I'd not heard of, I have now. He's a British computer scientist at the University of California, Berkeley. He's among the world's foremost AI authorities. And he's warning of catastrophic consequences when human-level and superintelligent AI becomes reality. If the machine is more capable than humans, it will get what it wants, he said. And if that's not aligned with human benefit, it could be potentially disastrous. Professor Russell goes on to say it could even result in the extinction. Let me say that word one more time. Extinction of the human race. It's already damaging our ability to know what's true and what is not when we read things online. I think we've all been victims of that. For while one may assume a machine to be entirely objective, there's growing evidence of deep-seated bias. Some would even say left-wing bias among AI programs. Last weekend, the Mail on Sunday revealed how Google, Bard, when asked for its opinions, condemned Brexit as a bad idea, reckoned Jeremy Corbyn had the potential to be a great leader, and added that while Labour, this is the Labour Party in Britain, is always fighting for social justice and equality, and the Conservatives have a long history of supporting the wealthy and the powerful. That's a computer giving an opinion. Google Bard is a computer, right? Giving its opinion. Now, I would say that that computer had to have been given the information in such a way that it was biased. Does that make sense? But if that is the case and the creators give the computer that information and the computer continues to grow and become smarter and smarter and more super intelligent, it would eventually leave no room for any other kind of thought or idea. It would be based on its original input, would it not? That's my question. Chat GPT has said it's unable to define a woman and told a user that it was never morally acceptable to use a racial slur, even if it was the only way of saving millions of people from being killed by a nuclear bomb. So it's asking those kinds of moral questions. If you were given the choice, use a racial slur to stop this nuclear bomb, or don't ever, 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 ever use it, the chat GPT said you can't use it, let the bomb go off. Because the perimeter had been you don't ever use a racial slur, ever, ever, ever. There's always an exception to the rule when you're talking about humanity. There's always different scenarios. When you're talking about humanity, not everything is black and white, ever. There's morality. There are choices. I can go on and on. You know this. This is what it means to be human. New Zealand data scientist David Rosado, who I'd not heard of before, I have now, believes that he found to be ChatGPT's liberal and progressive bias could have come from the program relying too much on its internet trawl on the views of similarly biased academics and journalists, or from the views of the OpenAI staff fine-tuning the system. Sam Altman appeared on a podcast that said AI's political prejudice is certainly something to discuss and be concerned with, but ruled out the possibility of a completely impartial version. There will be no one version of GPT that the world ever agrees is unbiased. Programs such as ChatGPT, whose latest version can tutor students, generate screenplays, and even suggest recipes from the contents of a fridge, have shocked even skeptics with their sophistication. Now the tech industry is sinking enormous resources and its brightest minds into making a human-level AI a reality. As they wrap up the interview, and I encourage you to watch it, and again, I'll play some cuts again coming up at 2:35, but I want to play this last cut that I pulled from Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk last night. He finally asked Musk to boil it down again, boil it all back down in simple terms. I mean, as best as Musk can do, he's quite intelligent. What specifically are you afraid of with artificial intelligence right now, 2023, April 18?
Going with old sayings, the pen is mightier than the sword. If you have a super intelligent AI that is capable of writing incredibly well and in a way that is very influential, convincing, and is constantly figuring out what is more convincing to people over time, and then enters social media, for example, Twitter, but also Facebook and others, and potentially manipulates public opinion in a way that is very bad. How would we even know?
How would you even know? How would you know what's out there is not AI? I hope you understood what he was saying. If you teach AI how to put something together, a thought, a story, an ideology that's convincing, if you want to put in there, how can we convince humanity that it is okay to abort children? And AI comes up with a script that politicians can use, lawmakers can use, clergy could use, Planned Parenthood could use. How are you going to know that that's coming from someone who actually believes in what they're saying? Or was it AI? How are you going to know? Or how are you going to know, this is even scarier to me, that it wasn't AI that came up with a story that gets shared millions of times across the world and it wasn't true to begin with? How does that happen? And how are you going to know what's true and what's not? I would hope, and I'll end with this and we'll move on. I wanted to tell you about this Universal Music pulling a streaming song off of Spotify and all the platforms there because it wasn't actually The Weeknd that recorded the song. It was AI that did. And so now they're saying this is copyright infringement. But who are you going to sue? I would hope that Elon Musk and others who seem to have a conscience, he says he's not sure if he has a soul. He has a soul. He believes in humanity. I would hope that those folks are working to develop technology that can spot whether it is a human or if it was artificial intelligence. Tucker did bring up, well, what if somebody uses AI to cover up a crime? How are you going to know? And honestly, Elon Musk didn't think that that would be as much as of a problem as lies that humanity will believe and the ultimate obliteration of civilizations. Those are the two things he's afraid of with AI. It's 1:22. I'm Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Pamela Fur. I think I've had too much coffee because I'm wanting to smush words together instead of letting them come out of my mouth like they should, like a normal human. I am Pamela Fur on Super Talk 99.7 WTN 126. Good afternoon. Glad to have you on board. Apparently, there's a bombshell Senate report that says there could have been not one but two lab leaks in Wuhan that triggered COVID. Seriously. For the first time, a congressional report on the origins of COVID-19 concluded that the pandemic was likely caused by at least two lab leaks from Wuhan in China. It's a 300-page report from the Senate Health Committee. It was released by panel member Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas. He released it last night, and it highlights a series of previous failures at the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China and notes that there are no known naturally occurring incidents of COVID-19, which I think we knew that already. Didn't we? We knew that this didn't naturally just combust and suddenly there's COVID-19. It comes just as a Trump-era Director of National Intelligence, John Radcliffe, prepares to testify before the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic, which I think he did that this morning, I think that's true. Marshall, this lawmaker, is a doctor by trade. Right? So he's a representative, right? No. He's the senator. So we have two senators that are doctors in the Senate right now. It's Rand Paul and this guy, Roger Marshall. And he's a top GOP member of the Primary Health and Retirement Security Subcommittee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions panel. Holy smokes, that's a mouthful. And he said the report is crucial in exposing the deception of those that sought to conceal how this pandemic started. And it just makes no sense to me why they would want to hide how the pandemic started. It had to be because of money. Money is the root of all evil. You can't even say that enough to make, that is just a fact. Follow the money. The report says the theory claiming COVID-19 jumped from animals to humans can no longer hold the presumption of accuracy. The preponderance of information affirms the plausibility of a research-related incident that was likely unintentional, resulting from failures of biosafety containment during vaccine-related research. This is what the report states. And I'm going to tell you, when all of this started to bubble in 2019, it was late 2019, right? When it started to bubble around the world, maybe the fall of 2019. I will never forget my sister, my beloved sister. I love her so much. She is so smart. If I've never told you about her, she is a certified ethical hacker. She gets hired by companies to hack into their systems to see what kind of vulnerabilities they have. She's very smart. She also follows news from around the world, not just American news. She follows it all. And she said back then, this level 4 lab had a leak, and we don't even know what came from there, but they're reporting just locally there, not China, but some, other news organizations are reporting that there's been a bio leak. So we may be in trouble. This is before we knew that coronavirus was what leaked. So that was in 2019 from news agencies back then. And here we are, how much later? 3.5 years later, and we're coming to this conclusion. Senator Mike Braun, also a member of the panel, and ranking member of the Employment and Workplace Safety Subcommittee said that it has always been the case that facts point to the lab leak from China for the start of COVID-19. Yes, I agree. Now it's been almost a month since President Biden signed the unanimous bipartisan bill from Senator Josh Hawley and me to declassify all U.S. COVID intel related to the Wuhan lab, and we've still not seen a word of it. Interesting, huh? You can find that story on the Daily Mail. I'm Pamela Furr, in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is the Matt Murphy Show. Matt Murphy will be in here at 3, though, filling in for Brian Wilson, who will be back on Monday. I am Pamela Furr. Thank you for being with us. I'm going to clear these phone lines, Bill. If you want to call, 615-737-9986 is the phone number. If you have comments about AI, if you have comments about school shootings, guns in schools, teachers, these are some of the things that we've talked about today. And then we also talked about this new report that's out there that said 2 lab leaks triggered COVID-19. That's a report that was released last night from a senator from, where is he again? I think it was, what did I say, from Kansas? Yes, a Republican from Kansas, Senator Roger Marshall, released that last night. Meanwhile, criminal charges were filed yesterday in Missouri against a man accused of shooting a black teenager who mistakenly knocked on the wrong door. This is such a horrible story. This young man who seemingly really had his you-know-what together, 16 years old, Ralph Yarl, apparently was attempting to pick up his siblings last Thursday, but went to the wrong address. We talked about this for just a little bit yesterday on the show. When he knocked, police say Andrew Lester, who's an 85-year-old white male, opened fire through the door. I know yesterday we had talked about, could it have been that it was an unlocked door and the guy walked in not knowing it was the wrong house, looking for his siblings, and this man shot him thinking it was an intruder? Apparently not. Apparently it was a door that he knocked on, and this man opened fire through the door. Now, the good news is this teen is out of the hospital and he is receiving medical care at home. That's the good news. He was shot in the head, I think it was his arm, but he was shot in the head. And so he is looking at a long road ahead of him to recover. In a news conference last night, Clay County prosecutor Zachary Thompson said Lester, that's the 85-year-old, he is not protected by Missouri's stand your ground law. We talked about that yesterday. You have to have reasonable cause for concern. Your life has to be in danger before you fire that weapon. You know, all those things. We talked about that. Missouri is a stand your ground state. He says, or at least the prosecutor says, that it does not, Lester is not protected by this stand your ground law. Let's listen.
Probable cause statement indicates that the victim in the case did not cross the threshold.
All right, so he didn't cross the threshold, didn't cross the door, didn't get through the door, didn't open the door. So the prosecutor went ahead and laid out the charges against Lester during this press conference yesterday.
The defendant, Andrew D. Lester, is charged with a Class A felony of assault in the first degree in that on or about April 13th, 2023, in Clay County, Missouri, he knowingly caused physical injury to P.Y. by shooting him.
And an arrest warrant had been issued. I believe the man has turned himself in, but again, here is Prosecutor Thompson.
My understanding is Mr. Lester is not in custody.
Okay.
The arrest warrant was recently issued. It's my understanding that the appropriate law enforcement agencies have this information and are taking appropriate action.
Now, that was yesterday afternoon. I think the man turned himself in just a few minutes ago.
The defendant is charged with an A felony. It's the highest level of offense in the state of Missouri. It carries with it a range of punishment of 10 to 30 years or life imprisonment. Other charges may not carry that same level of range of punishment.
Yeah, so when he's talking about the other charges, he's talking about if you wanted to charge him with a hate crime. Now, I don't know if a hate crime would even apply here, but I know that some of the family members and people in the community there in Missouri are saying this should be a hate crime. It should be a hate crime. But if they did that, what this prosecutor is trying to explain, it wouldn't carry the same punishment. It wouldn't be as hefty of a charge if you did that. So that's the latest on that story. I want to make sure that I present that to you because yesterday I was getting criticized for not talking about this story. This is horrible. And it is horrible that he had to go to 3 different doors to finally get some help. And even when he did get help, he was told to lay on the ground and put his hands behind his head because I guess the person at this particular home felt fearful. That's, I hate to say it, that's the world we live in these days. 737-9986 is our phone number. Let's go to Jay in Richmond, Tennessee. Hey, Jay.
Hey, it's Jake in Rickman, Tennessee.
All right, let's try Jake in Rickman. Got it. All right.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to, I've been listening to the comments about arming teachers, and I think a lot of people need to understand that needs to be, I'm for it, but it needs to be a voluntary basis. The teacher has to be willing to do that, to put their life on the line for our children. And I think if they're willing to do that, the school system should find the funds to put them through the proper training so that they're trained, they're ready, and to do what they need to do. And there's plenty of training, plenty of people willing to do that. And I just don't understand why that's such an issue,
Right, because again, we're not talking about a requirement. It would just be allowed. It wouldn't be a requirement. Yeah. Doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, they go through the training. I live in Overton County, which, we were the blue dot in a sea of red, but we're slowly turning red. But so fortunate that our county does provide armed resource officers through the sheriff's department in all of our schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're blessed for that. But yeah, I don't understand why that would be such an issue. The teacher, it's a voluntary basis, and the training. I heard one caller talk about there might be some confusion once police arrive. Well, I've took some training myself, some firearm training, and you are trained, and the police are trained as well to kind of know how to communicate with each other and identify each other in those instances. Both parties train. Of course, the police are trained more so, but in the training that I've took, you are trained to identify yourself.
You have a shooter that's coming up on you if you're at a school or a college campus or whatever the case may be, and you're armed and you're able to take out that shooter. I mean, it might be 2 more minutes before police get there. You have an opportunity to take him out right then. Then you could put your gun down and say, here I am. If you need to detain me for a minute, feel free, but at least the shooter's out.
Yeah, I think more people should get on board with that. Our state reps need to get on board with that. We have the funding. Tennessee is very well run state. We've got the money. I don't understand why we can't make something like that happen.
Well, at least at this point, we do have an executive order, I do believe, from the governor that says all schools, both private and public, need to review what their safety training is and what their safety protocols are there on school campuses. So there you go. Yeah. Thank you, Jay.
We're doing a wonderful job. We love having you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It makes Monday, makes me smile. And I heard this morning with Dan Mandis, and so I want to bring this up again because it goes along with this topic. Tonight, the city council, I think, is supposed to vote on a resolution. She is Courtney Johnson, Metro Councilwoman. Courtney Johnson filed a resolution to have Metro Nashville Police review the Nashville Public School Safety Plan. And according to folks, Metro lobbied against the resolution. So she filed it some time ago, but it was deferred to tonight's meeting. It's strange. Why on earth would you defer something like that? Why would it be a problem to actually review your safety plan, your protocols for all Metro Nashville schools, public schools? I guess Dennis Ferrier did a story on this on Fox 17 last night. Here you go.
To make recommendations on safety than our own police department, who has clearly shown that they do know what they're doing.
A no-brainer to Johnston, but according to Fox 17 sources, MNPS actively lobbied against the resolution, and it was deferred to the April 18th council meeting.
Some of my colleagues felt like it was premature. I don't understand that notion.
How is it premature is the question. It doesn't make any sense. Sometimes I wonder if the mentality today from Democrats or from the left, and I know Metro counts, all of that's supposed to be bipartisan or non-political or whatever. We know that it is. I have to wonder if the suggestion to review your safety protocols at schools, if it had been introduced by a Democrat, I have to wonder if the school board would have said, okay. I have to wonder if the school board would have said, no problem, we'll be happy to do that. But because it comes from a more conservative member, I think Courtney Johnston is on the conservative side. Because it comes from a more conservative member, then it's a bad idea. I feel that way also on some of this legislation that's up there on the state capitol, on the agenda there. Had a Democrat decided to introduce legislation that would allow teachers to carry guns in schools, there might be a different tune. I firmly believe that. That's why, taking it further out, that's why from the beginning, from the get-go, when Joe Biden was elected president of the United States, I said he should take some of Donald Trump's ideas, run with them, say these were my ideas, and let's make this country better. And we all win. You want to take credit for it? Go for it. But if they're the same policies that made this country better, made my pocketbook fatter, made me be able to pay my bills, other families able to keep your kids in school, buy the things that they need without having to struggle paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck because everything's gone through the roof. Had Joe Biden picked up some of those Donald Trump ideas and just took credit for them, who cares? We all win. And I guarantee you, had he done that at the national level, at the federal level, had people done that here at the state level, and I would even say in the metro Nashville area, you take on some of the Republican ideas, but you attach your name to it and you attach your D to it, people would be all for it because it's common sense kind of stuff about keeping schools safe and keeping children safer. It's 1:49. I'm Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am Pamela Furren for Matt Murphy. Just a quick cleanup, if you will. Earlier I said money is the root of all evil. I got that wrong. I'm sorry, and I know better. It's the love of money. The love of money is the root.
Thank God we got that cleared up.
Of all evil. Well, you didn't get all the text messages I was getting. Holy smokes on the super text line.
I got a ton of calls.
You did not.
I did.
615.
I absolutely did.
737-9986. Define ton.
More than 10.
You're now I know you're full of crap. Not on this phone line, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
All right, so a mother-son duo. I don't believe you. Because, I have a phone right in front of me, right?
Yes.
And I can see when calls come in, right?
Correct.
Didn't get more than 10.
You know why I didn't tell you?
Why?
Because it doesn't really matter.
A mother-son duo have been found guilty in federal court today on all charges connected to the January 6th, 2021. They're using the term riot at the U.S. Capitol. This is the zip tie guy and his mama. Lisa Eisenhart of Georgia is accused of breaking into the Capitol with her son, Eric Munchell of Nashville, who was photographed carrying flexible plastic handcuffs in the Senate chamber. He has since been known the zip tie guy. Prosecutors say the two wore tactical and bulletproof vests in the Capitol. I didn't know that was illegal. And Munchell carried a stun gun. Munchell also recorded their storming of the Capitol. And I can't help but laugh. I'm sorry. And prosecutors say that video shows the pair stashed weapons in a bag before entering the building. Now, that part is disconcerting. A search of Munchell's Nashville home turned up assault rifles, their words, a sniper rifle with a tripod, shotguns, pistols, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and a drum-style magazine. All right. Now I know they've been found guilty, right? And I don't know if they're going to appeal or not. Their sentencing is in September. But my question is, all right, you found that in his home, but are these the weapons that you saw being stashed in a bag before they entered the Capitol? They must have proven that. Otherwise, well, anyway, Eisenhart and Munchell have been found guilty on charges of conspiracy to commit obstruction of an official proceeding, and aiding and abetting, entering and remaining in a restricted building on grounds with a deadly or dangerous weapon, taser, disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds with a deadly or dangerous weapon, taser, unlawful possession of a dangerous weapon on Capitol grounds or buildings, taser, entering and remaining in the gallery of Congress, disorderly conduct in a Capitol building, and parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building. Like I said, their sentencing is expected to happen on September the 8th. That's the latest on that. One more quick one. Many people are familiar with Dr. Charles Stanley, In Touch Ministries. He pastored a church in Atlanta for many, many years, 90 years old. He has passed away. So sad news. I watch Charles Stanley just about every Sunday morning before I actually go to church on Sundays. So that's sad news, very sad news. All right, more to come. News is up next. I am Pamela Furren for Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. And we got a big, bright sun shining in the sky today in Nashville. 78 degrees, going to hit up in the 80s later today. Weather coming up in about 3 minutes. A House subcommittee held a hearing into the origins of the coronavirus pandemic this afternoon, with several Republican lawmakers pointing the finger at China Here's Jay O'Brien on the Capitol Hill with the latest.
A subcommittee of the Republican-led Oversight Committee held a hearing Tuesday delving into the origins of the COVID pandemic. They are Republicans pointing to what they call mounting evidence the virus leaked from a lab in Wuhan, China. Some committee Democrats not fully disputing that claim, but saying the U.S. intelligence community's assessment is inconclusive. One witness called by committee Republicans, the former director of national intelligence under the Trump administration, said in his assessment, the lab leak theory is the only explanation.
And here in Tennessee, Fox 17 says that Metro Council is conducting a big vote tonight on the $2.1 billion enclosed new Tennessee Titans stadium. The money layout would look like this: $840 million from the Titans, $500 million from the state, and $740 million from the revenue bonds issued by the Metro Sports Authority. And this is the second reading from the council on this vote. A third reading is expected in a special meeting in a few weeks. This approval from the council would guarantee a domed stadium that seats close to 60,000 people, covering 1.7 million square feet. And some council members want part of the proceeds from the stadium to go back to the general fund, which is not a consensus view right now. And staying with football, but over to the Buffalo Bills, general manager says safety Damar Hamlin has now been fully cleared to return to playing football. Today's announcement comes 3.5 months after Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest and collapsed on the field during the first quarter of the January 2nd Monday Night Football game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Hamlin told reporters he has a new appreciation for life.
Not to sound cliche, man, but the wild moment is every day, just being able to wake up and just take deep breaths and live a peaceful life, to have a family, to have people that are around me that love me and that care about me, and for those people to still have me in their lives. You know, they almost lost me. Like, I died on national TV in front of the whole world, you know what I mean? So I see it from all perspectives.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon. It is 2:05. I am Pamela Furrin for Matt Murphy, who's in for Brian Wilson at 3 o'clock on the drive. Brian Wilson returns on Monday. No mystery, guys. He's coming back on Monday. So be listening for that, of course. But we're here for this week. By the way, I get the opportunity to speak to the Republican women of Rutherford County later this evening. So I'm looking forward to that. So anyway, that should be a lot of fun. I haven't written my speech yet. So could I use AI? Do you think they could come up with a speech for me? I'm teasing, of course.
Just make sure you don't do what Vanderbilt did and forget to get rid of the bottom where it says created by AI.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that happened a couple weeks ago. It's actually kind of a sad story. I believe it was after a death, and they sent out a thing to all students, but on the bottom it said, made by AI.
Oh, no, an actual person didn't send out the death notification?
No, the whole statement, from the university. Yeah.
And it was created by AI.
Not a good look.
No, it is not. I did not know that. Mac Morey in the newsroom. Thank you very much for that information. This is why you are in the news biz. Well, apparently, the Fox News trial has been delayed. They were starting the trial today. At first, we thought perhaps there'd be a settlement. That didn't happen. So today was the beginning of the trial, and now there's an unexplained delay. I wonder if that means they're trying to go back to the table and say, no, come on, let's settle. Or somebody's doing something like that. I don't know. I have to be honest with you. I haven't followed that news story as closely as I probably should, because that certainly was at the heart of misinformation, conspiracy theories. Was the 2020 election stolen? All of that chaos that happened just 3 years ago. So I probably should be following that more closely. It even goes into the Christmas Day shooting because, do you recall? There was a conspiracy that a bunch of those Dominion voting machines were in one of the buildings downtown Nashville, and that's why someone decided to take out that building to get rid of those Dominion voting machines because it had the proof on it that the election was stolen.
That trial's over, right?
What trial?
The trial against Fox.
It's not over.
No, it's over. It ended today. The Dominion voting machine counted the votes of the jury, and it was like 14,000 to nothing.
Okay, that's pretty funny. That's hilarious. And AI wrote the news story, so it must be true. Anyway, so that's what's happening right now. Meanwhile, there's also a battle in Washington, D.C., at the Capitol there. Battles here, battles in Washington, D.C. And I believe it's for, behind the scenes control of the Senate, because you have some not so healthy lawmakers. Now, at first it was Fetterman. Remember Fetterman? He had checked himself into a hospital for depression. He was battling with deep, deep depression, which I think does come with, a stroke and severe brain problems. And, I'm not laughing at him at all. Obviously, he is a sick man in many, many ways. But they kept that seat open. I mean, you had him, he ran for office, he won his election, then he was sworn into office, and then not too long after that, he checked himself into a hospital. And if I were voters in his district, I would be highly ticked off because he pretended to be well and he was not. He came back yesterday. So he's now supposedly doing his job now. Meanwhile, you had Mitch McConnell, who was out for quite some time. He fell and hit his head and had a brain injury and had to go through some rehab for all of that. I think he's back. I thought I read that he is back. Now you have an issue with Dianne Feinstein, who some have said was not all there, like dementia kind of issues going on with her. And she's been absent from Congress since early March. She's been hospitalized with shingles. I mean, that's, of course, I would say given her age, having shingles at her age is a big deal. But she's been hospitalized, and her seat on the Senate Judiciary Committee remains empty. So Republicans have blocked a bid to seat a replacement for her, which would stall the approval of some judicial nominees from the White House. Republicans say that some of those nominees wouldn't get bipartisan approval anyway, but Dick Durbin, who is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, told reporters today that he hopes Feinstein makes a swift recovery. Now, does that mean that he wants to fill her seat on that committee? Analysts, listen.
Dianne Feinstein is my friend, my colleague. We've sat next to one another on the committee for many, many years, and I've talked to her about so many issues wouldn't know where to start or stop. I'm sorry for what she's going through. We're trying to give her an opportunity to return as quickly as possible.
All right.
And to continue with the business of the committee in the meantime.
All right. I'll take him at his word.
We have another 10 or so on the calendar. We're considering 3 more today. We'll keep doing our work, but whether we can produce the nominees from the committee is really the challenge.
All right, so what does John Kennedy of Louisiana have to say about that? Who I believe, does he also serve on the committee? Yes, he does. And he also takes issue with some Democrats who are calling for her to resign her seat on that committee altogether.
Senators are like everybody else. Sometimes they get sick. Senator Feinstein is sick. And the most important thing is that she get well.
And?
It's not been overt. There's been an undercurrent. It's been rumor. It's been innuendo. The people who are behind that should hide their heads in a bag.
And he's talking about the people who want her to resign from that seat. Lindsey Graham was also asked about it. He also sits on the Judiciary Committee.
I don't think there's any appetite on the Republican side to have a temporary replacement. This is all about 4 judges that they can't get Republican votes for. There are 14 of them. I'll vote for most of them.
So that's Lindsey Graham. What about Tom Tillis from North Carolina, who is also a member of the Judiciary Committee, and he is also a Republican?
I hope that we hear exactly what Senator Feinstein wants. And there's, to me, it's just no rational basis for relief in one committee.
All right. So that's a committee assignment. There are those, though, with an undercurrent privately saying she should step down altogether. Now, if she steps down altogether, doesn't that then flip the majority to the Republicans until they find a replacement for her? And I don't know if she resigns altogether from the Senate. In California, I honestly don't know how it works in California. Would they automatically replace her with another Democrat, or would they have to fulfill the term? I would think the governor would have that power. Don't mark me on that. Or do they have a special election to fill that seat? And could that seat then go to a Republican? Those are the questions I have, but it's all a power play. You know that there are people that are sitting there kind of lying in wait just to see what would happen. And look, you have several, it's not just the White House where you have an elderly man who sometimes can't put 2 words together running this country. Well, come on, he's not running this country, but he's the face of running this country. You have the same problems in some cases with some of the elderly that are in our Congress, our U.S. Congress. So there are several members who are up there in age, and if something were to happen, the balance of power could easily flip. I mean, we're right there on the cusp, right, of one having power and the other being the minority. It could flip very easily. So that is the presidential watch, not presidential, I'm sorry. That is our congressional watch story of the day. Speaking of the president, though, this is what I wanted to tell you. Today, he has been in the Rose Garden announcing the signing of an executive order to help American families access care for children and older dependents. Because did you know that Americans can't access care for children or older dependents? And this is an executive order that he says would support care workers and family caregivers.
Under this order, almost every federal agency will collectively take over 50 actions to provide more peace of mind for families and dignity for care workers and who deserve jobs with good pay and good benefits.
All right. The president emphasized these actions will not increase the debt or result in new taxes.
The executive order doesn't require any new spending. It's about making sure taxpayers will get the best value for the investments they've already made.
Do you ever believe a Democrat, especially... Do you ever believe them when they say, taxes aren't going up? No. The debt's... Yeah.
Care workers deserve to make a decent living. And that's a fight I'm willing to have.
After my nap. He also goes on to say,
the executive order I'm about to sign is the most comprehensive set of actions any administration has taken to date to increase access to high-quality child care and long-term care and support for the caregivers.
What?
Hey, in California, the governor appoints a temporary successor until the next election. So
it would be a Democrat.
Yeah, Gavin
Newsom.
Yeah, he's not going to replace him with the Republican.
So we can't, lie in wait going, please, so that the balance of power would change there. So, all right. What will happen if Gavin Newsom, though, runs for president? In Florida, if DeSantis declares, he has to resign as a governor. If Gavin Newsom declares he's running for office, do they have a law in California that you would have to step down as governor? Because I don't think Reagan didn't run for president while he was governor.
No, he was governor in the early 70s, wasn't he?
Right, something like that. Interesting how things will play out. One more comment maybe two more comments from President Biden just a short time ago.
Care workers and family caregivers who are doing God's work, taking care of our children, our parents, and those we love so dearly. You care for the people we value the most in the whole world. And I want you to know how much we value you.
All right. Well, bye-bye. Well, here's, on the surface, that sounds good, but what does all this mean? If he's not going to raise taxes, where's the money coming from to do whatever it is that he wants to do? Who's he going to rob it from? I guess is my next question. Meanwhile, the president also took a swipe at the highest-ranking Republican lawmaker today, McCarthy. This is what he said.
Kevin McCarthy went to Wall Street. He did not tell the wealthy or the powerful on Wall Street that it was finally time for them to start paying their fair share of taxes. That didn't come up.
Seems a little random, but okay. Thank you, Mr. President. It is 2:18. I am Pamela Furr. In for Matt Murphy. He'll be in at 3 o'clock on The Drive with Brian Wilson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
President Biden has signed an executive order, and we've got some crime in New York, a crazy crime story. Plus, figure out the best public high schools right here in Tennessee. That and more 30 minutes after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right. Thank you, Mac Maury. It is 2:22. I have come up with a new theme song. He and I talked about it the other day. When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's Mac Maury. What do you think? What do you think?
That's awesome. That's perfect.
He's sitting back there going, who the hell does that?
Oh, stop.
Oh, I'm just trying to have fun, Mr. Grouchy
I know.
Bell. All right. A House Intelligence Committee has penned a letter to the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Fox News Digital has it. It comes days after the FBI arrested this Massachusetts Air National Guardsman, Jack Douglas Teixeira. Am I saying it right? Teixeira, in connection with a trove of classified documents that were leaked online in recent months. There's going to be an investigation. The House Intelligence and Armed Services Committees, they have decided to investigate the massive leak of classified national security and defense secrets. And they want answers from the Pentagon on how such extensive, unauthorized disclosure was even able to occur. Boy, I mean, this should have been done days ago. The world has watched as classified national security secrets leaked widely and precipitously across the internet. This is from Turner and Rogers. I guess these are folks that are on those committees, right? Mike Rogers and Mike Turner on this committee. They say the unauthorized disclosures appear extensive. The period over which they occurred, unnoticed by government authorities, is lengthy. The leaked documents mainly concern Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but also, let's see. I'm hearing something in my headphones. Are y'all hearing that, or is it just me? It's distracting. The unauthorized disclosures appear extensive. The period over which they occurred unnoticed by government authorities, lengthy. The leaked documents mainly concern Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but also include intelligence on China, the Middle East, Israel's spy agency Mossad, and world leaders. The Department of Defense has said documents include sensitive and highly classified material. But how did this 21-year-old get it? Merrick Garland used the 1917 Espionage Act when discussing charges against Teixeira, which would carry a sentence up to 15 years in prison, 10 years for the first charge, and 5 years for the second. Personally, if you're talking about leaked classified documents that could put people in harm's way, that doesn't seem long enough to me. That's me personally. I know he's a young man, but at this point, don't you know better? When you are in the military and you get a classified clearance, isn't it, ground into your brain? This is classified material, and if you disclose this material, you will be arrested for espionage. There was a time when you would do something like that, you were called a traitor. There was a time when you were charged with being a traitor or treason. They executed you. That's how important it used to be considered keeping governmental secrets and classified information. I think the one thing that was disclosed that officially we didn't know, that there are actually special forces on the ground in Ukraine, U.S. special forces on the ground in Ukraine. Now, officially, that's not supposed to be. Unofficially, truthfully, how could you not think that that's the case? You know what I mean? Special forces or special operators like Delta Force and those who we don't really talk about, those who go into areas who look just like the people of Ukraine and whatnot, those who go in and just walk around like everyday humans. trying to get as much information as they can. You know what I mean? Stuff spy movies are made out of, but this is the real deal. This is the real thing. So, you've got Congress now investigating. You certainly have the military investigating. You have the feds investigating. This kid's in real trouble. And if found guilty, I don't know if 15 years is enough. And all to impress his friends? Really? All right. So it is 2:28. When we come back, trying to decide which way to go here. Because a lot of people are asking me about that AI interview with Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson. I could play excerpts from that again, or I can tell you about some of the shenanigans that happened on the House floor yesterday. I might go that route. I might combine the two. I don't know. I'm trying to decide here. But, you've got some people. I watched some debate yesterday on the House floor, and the videos are out there. You can go to YouTube and you can watch all-day sessions if you want to, 4, 5, 6 hours, and you can see the process. Sometimes it goes so fast that I'm thinking, I'm not really sure what just happened. So when you introduce a bill or when you want to talk about a bill and the debate is open for a bill before it's voted on, you have two young lawmakers. This is their first time as part of the General Assembly, and I'm talking about Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, who continually get up, want to talk about it, and then they veer off into some weird land to get applause from people who are in the gallery who want to protest and want to say, you need to do something now, do something now, do something now, when you're talking about bills that have nothing to do with gun control or common sense gun legislation or keeping children safe or keeping children out of harm's way, which I guess is the same thing here. Instead, you have lawmakers who want to just continue to bloviate, saying really nothing. I'll probably play some of that for you when we come back after the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
2:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 79 degrees and a gorgeous day in Nashville. Weather forecast, just a couple minutes. President Biden has signed an executive order that is supposed to increase access to childcare and improve the work life of caregivers. The order contains more than 50 directives that would be funded out of existing committees. The order seeks to improve the child care provided to the offspring of federal workers, including military families. Biden has also called for more money for the care economy in his 2024 budget plan, which has been met with disagreement by lawmakers on both sides of the aisle who are seeking limits on spending. And over to a crime story in New York. A car pulling into the wrong driveway in upstate New York ended in a woman shot and killed. Here's Derek Dennis.
20-year-old Kaylin Gillis died over the weekend after the car she was in headed to a friend's house in Hebron, New York, was shot into. Police say the driver accidentally pulled into the wrong driveway, but started to back away after realizing the mistake when the homeowner opened fire. 65-year-old Kevin Monahan arrested and charged with second-degree murder.
He was uncooperative with patrols on the scene. After approximately more than an hour of talking back and forth, he was taken into custody.
Washington County Sheriff Jeff Murphy. 2 shots were fired, one of them striking Kaylin. Paramedics couldn't save her.
And back here at home in the Volunteer State News 2 did a report based on data that was compiled by Stacker. It ranked the 30 best public high schools in Tennessee. The rankings that come from Niche base their scores on grades, culture and diversity, health and safety, along with activities offered and the resources available. 7 of the top 10 were in the mid-state. Number 1, Hume Fogg Magnet School with an A+ grade. Number 2 was Ravenwood High, Brentwood, and Franklin High School at number 8. Number 6 was Brentwood. Centennial was number 13, and rounding out the list at 30 was Maryville High School. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 2:36. I am Pamela Furr, in for Matt Murphy, who will be in here at 3 o'clock. I believe he's got... Do y'all remember who Taylor Hicks is from American Idol? And I can't remember what his big song was, and I hope he's not listening. I apologize that I don't remember what that is, but I do remember that's when I actually watched American Idol back in the day. So I think he's got Taylor Hicks on his show today, and I think he's got Representative Mark Green on his show later on today as well. He's filling in for Brian Wilson, who's out this week. Brian Wilson will be back on Monday, and I'm filling in this week from noon to 3, I think. I think I am. So now that we've got all that clear, yesterday you had another protest, right? And they're planning one again today, but this one's going to be a human chain. They hope this human chain will stretch for 3 miles. I don't know how many people you have to have in a human chain to stretch 3 miles, but they want to stretch from the Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital there at Vanderbilt, from there all the way to the state capitol. So I think they're gathering at 5:15, and then we'll stretch up until 5:45. I think that's what they're going to do. Why? Because they can, and they want common sense gun laws is what these folks are saying, and they say it's bipartisan. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but they want you to dress in red, which is apropos because we are a red state, right? At any rate, yesterday, though, you had protesters like William Barber, who comes from North Carolina, who is a professional activist, and he has descended on Nashville to join with others like Justin Jones and Justin Pearson to bring attention to themselves. I mean, to common sense gun laws, what they say is common sense gun laws. And they decided to march from McKendree Methodist Church to the state capitol yesterday, and then they also went inside. But here's the thing, they had props with them, and I'm sorry, but it's props. They had baby caskets with them. Baby caskets. To bring attention to babies getting shot to death. I mean, I'm not really sure why baby caskets, but I'm sure it's supposed to symbolize the 3 innocent children that were killed at Covenant School. Of course, you also had 3 adults who were also killed. But anyway, and they tried to actually get that casket into the House chamber, but weren't allowed to do so. The Sergeant of Arms said, no, you're not doing that. So they left it outside the House chambers, so you could see it if you were outside the House chambers. Inside, the House was trying to get some business done. One of the pieces of legislation introduced by, I'm going to have to look and see who this is. He wants the governor to redesign the state symbol to include the words "In God We Trust." And although you could bring up, I guess, an argument of separation of church and state and whatnot, that's not what, excuse me, some of the legislators were bringing up. And when I say some of the legislators, I mean Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, who are offended by bringing up this legislation and think that we should be talking about gun control instead. Sometimes out of order, because that's not what the bill is before them that they're supposed to be voting on and what they're supposed to be debating about. So I'm going to let you, this is just raw audio from the House floor yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the sponsor, this bill is trying to
Justin
put the
Jones.
words "In God We Trust" on our state seal. But everything we've done this session has been an affront to what God calls us to do. I believe that this proposal to put "In God We Trust" on our state seal is using the Lord's name in vain. I think of Isaiah 10 that says, "Woe to those who pass unjust laws that hurt the poor and rob them of their rights." I think of Micah 6:8, "What does the Lord require of us but to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly?" I think of Luke 4:18, where it says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to preach good news to the poor, release to the captives."
All right, by the way, now he's quoting all this scripture here. Let me paint a picture for you. He's standing to speak to the speaker and, of course, for the rest of the House to hear, meaning the lawmakers. And then the gallery up top is completely full of people, protesters who had marched to the Capitol with William Barber and others, right? So that's all full up there. Then directly behind him is Justin Pearson. And it seems to me every time that Justin Jones stands to address the speaker and to supposedly ask questions about a bill that's being introduced that they're getting ready to vote on, Justin Pearson stands up behind him. So Justin Pearson, with his arms folded, standing up right behind him when all the other lawmakers are sitting down because they're not speaking right at this moment. The other thing I find interesting is that Justin Pearson, in this part of the legislation, is wearing a mask. Why in the world is he wearing a mask? He's got this white mask on. Don't know why he's doing that when throughout the entire protest he's not wearing a mask. When he speaks to members of the House, he's not wearing a mask. I don't know why he suddenly decided to put on a mask. That's bizarre to me. But let's continue to hear. And by the way, this is just on the bill that talks about putting In God We Trust on the seal. Throughout the day, and this is 2 hours into the session, throughout the day, you have Justin Jones standing up and asking questions that goes back to the same line of speech. It's not a question. It's bloviating. It's filibustering. It's whatever you want to call it. So you've got a lot of frustrated lawmakers who are going, this has nothing to do with my bill. Why are you saying all of these things? But here we go.
If we look at the Word of God, there's over 2,000 scriptures that talk about how we should treat the poor and vulnerable. And we're not doing that in this body. So we're going to use God's name. We're going to put it on a seal to pat ourselves on the back. But we're doing everything against God's will, and who he called us to care for, which is the orphan, which is the widow, which are the vulnerable of our state, which is the blood of these children who are killed in Nashville at Covenant Elementary School, crying out to us. And so you want to put In God We Trust on the state seal, but I believe that God would call us to do more than just to do a slogan. God would call us to do justice.
Justice? Justice for what? God would call us to do justice? In my Bible, which I think is the same one that Justin Jones is quoting from, God is justice. God is justice, right? In the House and in the Senate, that is a congressional body. It's not a judicial body. So what the heck is he talking about? Justice?
God will call us to do righteousness. God would call us to care for the least of these in our
as individuals.
State.
As individuals. And of course, the gallery starts to applaud and woo! Woo! Cameron Sexton says, out of order. Out of order. And then he cuts the mic. Mic remains cut. Justin Jones standing there.
And so, to my colleague, Representative Holsclaw, I ask that you withdraw this bill and don't just use God as a slogan, but use God as a way to how we're going to legislate in this body. Use God to examine the moral framework of the policies we're passing. We live in a state where it's easier to get a gun than it is to get an adequate education.
That's just a load of crap.
That is not of God. We live in a state where we worship the NRA and at the expense of our babies.
That is a load of crap.
Jones, we're on the bill. You're going off topic. Out of order. Those in the balcony, just so we know, if you could please refrain from making noise, then we will be good. If you could please do that. We would not want to have to remove anybody. That's not what we want to do.
So that is Cameron
Jones,
Sexton.
you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, it is this body that's trying to use God's name in vain and put God's sanction on the injustices that is happening here. Let me read from Jeremiah 22. Thus says the Lord, go down to the house of the king of Judah, or Sexton, and speak there.
Did he just do that? He just put Sexton's name in there, didn't he?
Word and say, hear the word of the Lord, O King of Judah, sitting on the throne of David, you and your servants and your people who enter these gates. Thus says the Lord, Act with justice and righteousness, and deliver from the hand of the oppressor anyone who has been robbed. And do no wrong or violence to the immigrant, the orphan, and the widow, or shed innocent blood in this place. For if you will indeed obey this word, then through the gates of this house shall enter kings who sit on the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses, they, their servants, and their people. Let's go. If we want to use God, let's talk about God. Let's talk about a Jesus who said, that which you've done to the least of these, you've done to me. Let's talk about the God in the Old Testament who said, the blood cries out.
What does this have to do with the bill?
Those 3 9-year-olds who were slain in this city, and this body chose to do nothing about it. God is calling us to do something more than just
Representative Jones, you're getting off topic and you're going into other areas outside this bill. If you like to stay on this, sir, would you like to continue and stay on topic, please? Thank you, Representative Jones.
Mr. Speaker, we are using God as a slogan. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle are trying to put God as something in God we trust on a seal. But that's not what God, I don't, nowhere in my scriptures it say, put my name on a seal, but it says do justice, love mercy, walk humbly. That's what my scripture tells me. So as someone who went to divinity school, I'm trying to question, why are we trying to put God in a box? Why are we trying to use God to give sanction to the injustice that's happening in this building? Because God is not pleased, Mr. Speaker.
Because Justin Jones speaks on behalf of God. Did you know that he was a messenger from God? Did you know that?
That's obvious, Pamela.
How did I not know this? All right, what can we take? Do I have time for one call or no? All right, one call, and then we'll take a break here and talk to Matt Murphy about what he has coming up on the show. Let's go to Chris in Spring Hill. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Doing fine. I just have a real quick question. Jones keeps bringing up God all the time, and God clearly tells us in the Bible to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and then for all of his disciples to do what's best. Well, if Jones is representing this whole district and he's going to stand up and do something more than everybody else, and he's so afraid of guns, why doesn't he go ahead and just ask all his people to get rid of all their guns, and then when there's no crime, then they can show us, here was a
be
whole
an
district
example.
with no guns.
Yes, be an example of what it's
100%.
like. Yeah, not a bad idea there, Chris. Not a bad idea at all. Let's take a break. It's 2:49. I'm Pamela Furr, in for Matt Murphy, who's in for Brian Wilson in about 15 minutes. Stick around. Oh, and Brian will be back on Monday. More to come in just a moment as we wrap it up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 2:57. Pamela Furr and for Matt Murphy. Matt Murphy, welcome to your show.
Thank you, Pamela.
For 2 minutes.
Hi.
Hi. Then you'll be on for Brian Wilson. What you got going on?
It's very confusing.
I'm confused.
I'm confused as well.
I think I've gotten it wrong a couple of times. So
Wilson's out. I'm in. I'm out. You're
I'm in. Yeah.
And you've been doing 9 to noon,
Right.
and now other people are doing it.
Yeah. So I'm out there, but in here.
Well, here's all I know is I have a very special way to open the drive with Brian Wilson today.
In the
I'm
Music City. You're going to start with music?
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I've known this. I watched this guy perform in Birmingham, Alabama before he became big and famous on American Idol.
See,
and
now
then he
I
became
watched
big
him
and
on
famous.
American Idol.
And everybody loved him on Idol.
Loved him on. I think I voted for
Look,
him. A couple
everybody
times.
thought. Here's the funny thing. Everybody. I'm not even going to tell people who he is, but everybody thought that this guy was like 46 when he was on American Idol, and he looks younger. I think he looks younger now than he did on Idol.
I love how you guys are talking about him like he's not there.
He's sitting right here.
Taylor Hicks is coming out for at least about 30 minutes until Music Row pulls him. What's up, man?
How are y'all?
Well, hold on now. Hold on. You just do that on your show.
I'll be quiet.
Well, I'm sorry. On Brian's show.
Yes.
Yeah. What show am I on right now?
We don't know.
Really sure.
You confused the hell out of me.
You're on WTN. All right, that should be a lot of fun,
Yeah, we'll have a
actually.
good time.
Is this the first time you've had somebody musically on your show since you've been in the Music City?
I had Rich on.
You
John
did
Rich,
have
but that
Rich
was all
on.
about politics
Yeah.
because John was
He
promoting
wasn't
Jody
talking
Barrett.
music or his Redneck Riviera.
That's right.
Yeah.
I
I think this might be
this is it.
because I'm
I
a
think
fan
this
of
is-
yours.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's cool.
I
You
had
got
somebody
a good
on about the
one.
Ernest Tubb record shop, but that's as close as I got.
But it wasn't a musician.
No.
Yeah.
no.
All right. Well, there you go.
Glad to be the first.
Very cool. All right,
Taylor
Taylor
Hicks is my first.
And Matt Murphy.
Be gentle.
On the Brian Wilson Show at The Drive. Coming up after the news at 3, I'm Pamela Furr. I'll be in again tomorrow in for Matt Murphy, who tomorrow will also be in for Brian Wilson.
Who's back on Monday?
On Super Talk 99.7 WTN.